The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something that is truly awe-inspiring. A bunch of movies that all share the same universe. Something like this hasn't been done since the Rankin Bass Christmas movies. It all started with the Iron Man movie, a little-known superhero at the time, but now is one of the top 10 most popular superheroes in the world. It's hard to believe that this all started over a decade ago, back in 2008. Each superhero from Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Captain America all had their own standalone movies that were very unique from one another. Yeah, when people say to me, all the Marvel movies are the same, watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and then watch the Hulk movie, and then tell me how similar they are. A decade ago, almost to the exact date, the first Avengers movie came out. When you get down to it, it had a very simple plot compared to the other movies. Aliens are invading, being led by the God of Mischief, and Earth's heroes have to team up to defeat them. There wasn't really too many plot twists at all. But the really good part in this movie was how all the heroes' personalities bounced off one another. Hulk was pretty simple. He was just a really strong, angry guy who was a bit of a loose cannon. Not too many people really cared that they switched out the actor for Bruce Banner. But Captain America was a soldier from the greatest generation who had a heart of gold, and he was a complete fish out of time. Iron Man was a genius with a pretty big ego, and someone who was used to working alone. And Thor's motivation did conflict with the others, due to his brother being the one to lead the alien charge. This movie gave audiences something they wanted for a very long time, and other movie studios tried to replicate the formula with, definitely not the same success. We were excited to see what Marvel Studios had in store for us. We were nervous about Disney buying up Marvel Studios at first, but all they seemed to do was increase the budget. They didn't seem to be really messing with the plot or writing all too much. Some of the movies that came out afterwards had a few bumps in the road, such as the second Avengers movie not being as good as the first one and had way too much of that Marvel humor. And Iron Man 3 was a pretty garbage movie. It was basically a worse version of The Incredibles. But it was all worth it because we got great movies like Captain America Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, and Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Endgame was a satisfying conclusion to the series for a lot of people. Now granted, a few people did have some problems with it. For some, it was too much of a nostalgia trip. But after a decade worth of movies, I personally think they earned it. But there was something about the Marvel movies that I slowly started to notice. For example, there's a part in Avengers Endgame where all the female superheroes are all fighting alongside one another, even a Wakandan royal guard. Now granted, in the very first Avengers movie, there's a part where the camera spins around all 6 of the heroes fighting alongside one another. But that felt more earned because we had a bunch of movies establishing each of the characters. Well, everybody except for Hawkeye. He only got one scene in the Thor movie. This scene with all the female superheroes fighting alongside one another just seemed to come out of left field, but it's not really a big deal. In my opinion, the Black Panther movie was actually quite good, although I don't think it deserves to be the highest rated Marvel movie when it came out. But there were a lot of awkward scenes in the movie, like when Black Panther's sister calls Bilbo Baggins a colonizer, or when she says, "What are those?" But the villain was pretty cool, and Claw was absolutely hilarious in this movie. Oh yeah, there was also that god-awful Captain Marvel movie. It messed with the main Marvel canon, and she was an absolute Mary Sue. Her big weakness was that she underestimated her power, and she was more powerful than Thor, Hulk, and Iron Man combined. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why the movies had to completely change Hulk as a character, and we didn't get a Planet Hulk movie. Hulk is supposed to be super strong, be able to regenerate, and the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Sure, these movies establish that Hulk is really strong, but he doesn't seem to regenerate, at least as far as I can remember. And they don't really establish that he gets stronger the angrier he gets. But what's the point of Hulk? Why didn't he get a sequel movie? Well, it's because Captain Marvel can one-shot him whenever. The point of Hulk is that he's the strongest there is, but he's also a loose cannon. His power is a double-edged sword. Oh boy, I got this super strong guy on my team, and oh my god, he's attacking me now. With Captain Marvel, she's not only way more powerful than the Hulk, but she also has control over her ability. But hey, this is not too bad. Most of the Marvel movies are still pretty good. It's not like most of the Marvel movies are on the same level as Captain Marvel. And then Marvel Phase 4 came out. Oh dear God. Now, I was willing to look past the Marvel humor. I was willing to look past the movies becoming more similar as time went on. But I'm not willing to look past all these Mary Sues, its stupid political agenda, and ruining established established characters. But above all, I cannot stand this bait and switch where the trailers promise me something good and it gives me something shit. So Marvel Phase 4 has less movies and more TV shows. An interesting change, and I thought it was a good change. After all, you can have much more plot in a show than you can have in a movie. But every single one of these shows has a bait and switch. You think it's going to be about something new and different, but then a plot twist happens in all of them that ends up making them more similar than different. Wanda Vision was the first one I saw, and it was a little slow at first with the first 2 episodes. I almost stopped watching, but there were these parts that made me think that this show was going to get really good. And it did. The first few episodes are based off sitcoms from different decades. The first 2 were based off shows from the 50s and 60s, so they were in black and white. In the first episode, something seemed immediately off. Wanda and Vision didn't even know why they were in the town. Some guy who joined them for dinner started choking on his food when he asked a question, and the reaction from Wanda, Vision, and the guy's wife were all just completely off. Even the reaction from the guy when he doesn't die is basically like, "Whoa, honey, I almost died. Whoa, that was pretty terrible. Anyways, let's go home and laugh at people with polio on the way." A beekeeper just comes out of a manhole. Now that's something you don't see every day. So it's later revealed that Wanda enslaved an entire town against their will because she couldn't deal with all her trauma, which, to be fair, she does have a lot of. There's this really stupid scene where a bunch of government agents are pointing guns at Wanda and they say, "You enslaved a town," and she just says, "I'm not the one pointing guns at people." They're pointing guns at you because you enslaved a town against their will. There's also this evil dark witch named Athaka who shows up who's trying to steal all of Wanda's power for herself. And the government also rebuilds Vision to stop Wanda. Oh yeah, and her brother Quick Sus also shows up in this show. To me, WandaVision was, for the most part, a pretty good show. I did have a few problems with it, but I could look past most of them, all but one. And that's, Wanda is made out to be a good hero. She tortures a whole town of hundreds of people. Some of them are forced to act out plot lines. Others are kept away from their friends and family. Could you imagine an entity that forced people to stay in their houses away from their friends and family? They are so clearly in pain. Most of them probably needed therapy after she finally left. Yes, she does have a lot of trauma she needs to get through, but hurting an entire town is not the way to go about it. Also, when she finally stops enslaving the town, this one girl really says to her,
"They'll never know what you sacrificed for them."
Wait, what? The only thing she gave up was her dead husband and fake kids. And in giving those up, she gave a whole town of hundreds of people their free will back. Now, since we're still on the topic of Wanda, she says to Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, "You break the rules, and you're seen as the hero. I break the rules, and I'm seen as the enemy. That doesn't seem fair." Wanda, the problem isn't that you broke the rules. It's more that you enslaved a town of hundreds of people against their free will. Now, you might say that she does become the villain, and Doctor Strange too. I'll be getting to that movie later. For now, let's just talk about Loki.
I'm very sorry, and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving a
So, in Avengers Endgame, because of some time travel shenanigans, Loki ends up getting his little grubby hands on the Tesseract and teleports away. He's captured by some people who watch over the sacred timeline in order to make sure there's only one timeline. They are so powerful that they use Infinity Stones as paperweights. This truly is a humbling experience for Loki, who's an adopted god. Not a full god, keep in mind he's a frost giant, he was adopted. At the start of the show, Loki is quickly shown to be a clown. Some black girl just takes him out in one hit. Remember when only Thor and Hulk could stand up to him? I thought I knew how this show was gonna go about things. If there's an organization so powerful that they use Infinity Stones as paperweights, and just one of their random agents can knock out Loki in one hit, then Loki would have to use his cunning, wit, charisma, and magic illusions to figure out how to get out of his situation. Brute force was not gonna get him out of this one. After all, the trailer advertised this show to be about Loki, and for the first few episodes, it makes you think that it's mostly going to be about him, right? But then a girl Loki shows up named Sylveon. Yes, I know her name is Sylvie, but I think it would be funnier if I called her Sylveon. And she literally says, "This isn't about you." Don't get me wrong, Loki does get a lot of screen time, but girl Loki is moving the plot along. Real Loki is always telling her how amazing she is.
You did it on your own. You had rings around them. You're amazing.
And she ends up breaking the sacred timeline, meaning she has killed more people than any other Marvel villain up to this point. So just like Wanda, she's really powerful and does things that hurt people. But she's someone you should root for, apparently. I think the funniest part in the entire show is when this white guy working for the Time Patrol says to this black woman,
I feel like I'm always looking up to you. I like it. It's appropriate.
okay, so maybe Loki and Wanda Vision did drop the ball, but the Hawkeye show has to be good, right? I thought the show was going to focus on Hawkeye's alter ego that he took up after Thanos did his snap that made a whole lot of people not feel so good. But they didn't. Instead, they did a show that happens after everybody was brought back. Although they will reference a lot of what he did between those 5 years everyone was gone, so I don't know why they didn't do that show first and then did this show, but maybe this will be good. And for the most part, it is actually pretty good. Hawkeye gets teamed up with this girl named Kate Bishop, who isn't actually better than Hawkeye, who, by the way, is getting really old. He can barely hear now. So to me, he was more of a mentor figure, passing on the torch to the next generation. Okay, I can get behind this. My biggest problem with this show, however, is she's moving the plot along, and not him. When the show is literally called Hawkeye, named after Hawkeye, the guy the show should be about. I do like that they brought back Black Widow's sister and Swordsman. Yeah, unless you're like really deep into Marvel Comics, most of you probably had no idea who this guy was. I was liking the show a lot, but then it's revealed that Kate's mom isn't the villain, nor is it the Death Girl whose father was killed by Hawkeye. It's Kingpin, who comes the fuck out of nowhere. What, you thought the villain was actually going to be a whammon? No, it's this fat white guy who suddenly exists. Like, at first this show was so good, we got a little mystery plot going. How hard would it be on Kate Bishop if she found out that her mom was a murderer? And her hero Hawkeye was also one. But no, instead the villain was some fat white guy who we got, like, no build up to. I decided to check out another Marvel TV show on Disney+, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And just like all the other shows, I liked it at first, and then stuff happened that made me enjoy it less and less as it went on. So this show introduces a new group into the MCU called the Flag Smashers, who wear black and red. Gee, I wonder what this group is a real-life insert for. A group of ethnically diverse displaced people, led by this redhead girl. After Thanos made everyone disappear, a lot of people got free stuff, and now that those people are back, those who gain that free shit have to give up their free shit to the rightful owners. So this group called the Flag Smashers are upset that they had to give up their free stuff to the rightful owners. So in response to having to do that, they become terrorists, causing damage to a lot of other people's stuff. But the worst part is they're shown to be in the right. Falcon literally lectures a white senator, telling him,
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand?
That's not an argument. Cool, you're a black guy wearing the symbol of the most powerful superpower in the world. What you don't understand is that 4 billion people went missing for 5 years, came back, and now the world's economy is in a place that no one ever planned for, ever. People getting free stuff shouldn't be a priority for the governments of the world right now. The Flag Smasher girl literally kills a black soldier and is shocked as if she wasn't punching to kill. She also blew up a bunch of stuff earlier in the TV show, so I think she might have killed at least a few people up to this point.
There were still people in there.
This is the only language these people understand.
I'm honestly siding with Captain America 2.0 more. He doesn't kill a black guy, and he only kills one person after his best friend was killed right in front of him. Falcon and Bucky are such dicks to him just because he took the shield after Falcon refused to take it himself. There's really a part where Captain America 2.0, Falcon, and Bucky all get their asses kicked by the Wakandan Royal Guards. Like, were they always this strong? Both of them, along with the original Captain America, were on the same team in Captain America Civil War. Black Panther was on the other side, so where were his guards? Their king was just killed. They could have really helped out. But what about Moon Knight? To be perfectly honest, I thought this show was going to be about a knight mooning people. The main thing that did get my hopes up for Moon Knight was that he wasn't a legacy character like Loki, the Scarlet Witch, Falcon, and Hawkeye. Just like all the other shows, at first I liked it. The main character had a split personality. That's something that really hasn't been done in the MCU yet. The closest thing I can think of was, well, Hulk. But now he's a smart Hulk all the time, so I guess Moon Knight is the only one now. It was also about mythology, which I fucking love, by the way. The villain was predictably some white guy who wanted to kill a lot of people, which you think the Flag Smashers would love, because it would get them free stuff. But because he's white and only wants to kill bad people, he's supposed to be the villain. Near the end, we get this female superhero who's an avatar of a god just like Moonlight. But she can also fly, making her even better than him. You could literally write her out and the plot of the movie would basically be unchanged. Also, Moon Knight killing her dad was also a stupid plot point. But I do gotta give Moon Knight credit for one thing. Out of all the shows so far, it was the most enjoyable. To be perfectly honest, I can't find too much to complain about, so let's just move on to Doctor Strange 2, where the villain is Wanda.
Lig my balls.
To be perfectly honest, she technically was already the villain in Wanda Vision, but we still need to feel bad for her, even though she's killing tons of people because she doesn't have kids. Oh, and by the way, to everyone who commented on my Disney Sues video saying that Wanda wasn't the most powerful character in the MCU, fuck you. In this movie, she took out Captain Marvel and 3 other heroes, one of which was fucking Black Bolt. Also, when Professor X got killed, I actually laughed, because this was like the 4th time he's died on the big screen. Doctor Strange just spends a lot of the movie being talked down to. His relationship with Christine Palmer didn't go well in every universe, like, what the fuck? But at least he's here to give America, a new female superhero, emotional support, so she can be the one to save the day. In Eternals, I don't blame you if you haven't seen it because, well, a lot of people skipped this one. One of the female heroes takes out an Eternal, which is like a super god. Seems a little silly for the Eternals to give power that can kill them to one of their own creations, but whatever. In this movie, we find out that Ajax, a woman, betrayed the other Eternals. But then we find out it wasn't her. It was Icarus, a white man, who really betrayed them. Then we had Thor Loving Thunder, that I was absolutely hyped to see. I saw it on the big screen, and it did have a lot of things that I liked. But just like with all the others, I thought I was getting something that the movie didn't give me. I thought this movie was going to be about Thor fighting alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy, but then they all left after the first act. There's a new Lady Thor. Oh, I'm sorry, the Almighty Thor. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like the idea behind Girl Thor. She has cancer, and every time she uses the power of the hammer, she loses all the chemo in her body. You see, one of the powers of Thor's hammer is that it removes all the toxins from the body, which includes chemo. The movie doesn't really establish this well, like, at all. She just immediately masters the hammer and is even better with it than Thor. Thor also gives dozens of kids his powers. And all I could think was, wow, that would have been useful like 5 other times. Like, could Thor always do this? Like when Thanos attacked his ship, couldn't he give all the other Asgardians his powers? They would have absolutely kicked Thanos' ass. Also, is it just me, or did the scene where he gave all the kids his powers really remind you of Kingdom Hearts? So now we get to the latest show in Marvel Phase 4, She-Hulk. I'm going to keep this short because I want to do a full review of the show, and at the time of me recording this, only 3 episodes are out. But for now, I'll just go over episode 1. I can't wait for the last episode where the villain is going to be revealed to be a white guy. In the original She-Hulk comics, she's saved by her cousin, Bruce Banner, who gave her some of his blood, not only saving her life, but also making her into a Hulk, just like him. Obviously, in the modern day, we can't have a man saving a woman. So obviously instead, she's the one to save him from a car crash. But both of them are covered in cuts and bruises, so some of his blood mixes with hers. I can already picture how they were discussing this in the boardroom. Larry. Yeah, Jim? I looked over your script. We can't have a woman being saved by a man, so you need to make some changes. Okay, how about she's the one that saves him from a car crash, but as she was saving him, she lost a lot of blood, causing her to pass out. Bruce wakes up before she does, and he has to make one of the toughest decisions in his life. He has to give her some of his blood to save her life, but if he does, he'll doom her to the same fate as himself. No, that would still involve him saving her life in some way. Oh, I got it. We have her save him, and as she's saving him, some of his blood mixes with her blood. Wow, that's brilliant, boss. I love you. I love you too, Larry. The mouse told me if we do a really good job empowering women, then they'll actually put a gay scene in this movie. For a whole 10 seconds? Yeah, Larry, they're gonna do that. So they can edit it out of the Chinese version. When she becomes a Hulk, she quickly masters her abilities, and yes, in the comics, she does just become green and strong. She never loses control in a similar fashion to the Hulk. But let's be honest here, even if that wasn't in the original comics, she would just become green and strong without losing control over her personality. But of course, the most infamous scene in this entire show is when she tells Bruce that her life is harder than his, and she does a much better job at controlling her anger. So first of all, dick measuring trauma, comparing your trauma to someone else's trauma, is cringe as fuck. Who wrote this line, Omnia? Only hardcore Just Robot fans will get that joke. But even then, she's wrong. Men catcall me. Oh yeah? I was hunted down by the entire military for years. Oh yeah, well, people don't take me seriously at my job, and I get mansplained too. I watched my father kill my mother. I don't know if that's canon anymore. Okay, I lost Captain America, my good friend, and I saw my friend Tony Stark, die right in front of me. And yes, I made references to both of them in this episode. Well, if I lose my temper, some men might literally murder me. Okay, that's complete bullshit. Statistically speaking, men are far more likely to get murdered than women. I only know one woman who got murdered, and she did it to herself. She was the love of my life. Black Widow, and she sacrificed herself so that half of humanity could come back. I did everything I could to bring her back, and now I have to sit across from my cousin, who is telling me her life is harder than mine, and the fact that I don't rip off your head at this very second shows that I'm in much better control of my anger than you. I have period cramps. Cute. I have a split personality. That took control of me for 2 years on an alien planet. I don't know who wrote this scene, but I'm gonna put the blame on the woman who wrote the Pickle Rick episode. Mainly because she's the only one I know. The average woman with first world problems does not have a harder life than Bruce Banner. Shut up. You do not know what you're talking about. There's also this really cringe scene where She-Hulk ends up at a bar and all these women help her, but then when she goes outside, all these men start following her and asking her out on a date. And the main one who's doing it is black, so what are you trying to say, She-Hulk? Remember the message of Disney. Women first. And they also have a harder life than black people and gay people combined. But I really want to wrap this video up now. I'll go into further detail about She-Hulk in a different video.
Spoiler alert.
You're black.
What? No! So now that I have gone over all Phase 4 movies and shows that I have seen, I didn't see Miss Marvel, I skipped that one. What is the problem I have with it? Well, firstly, it's the bait and switch. I think I'm gonna get something I will like, only for the mouse to trick me and give me something I didn't ask for. All the shows and movies did this, all except for She-Hulk. The trailers didn't hide the fact that it was shit. The Thor trailer made me think he was going to fight alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that didn't happen. The trailer for Loki and Hawkeye made me think it was going to be about them, and it really wasn't. Moon Knight and Wanda Vision sucked me in, only to have the shows go downhill. Imagine going to a restaurant and ordering food, only to be given something you didn't order, and then you get a lecture on top of all of that. You would probably stop going to that restaurant and find a new place. That's why it's not a shock to me that Marvel movies are making less money nowadays. My second problem is the twist villains aren't really twist villains because they're almost always a white man. Sure, Agatha was a white woman villain in WandaVision, but she's literally the only one. The twist villain in Hawkeye is a white man, not Kate Bishop's mom, because women are good. The twist villain in Eternals wasn't a woman because women good, it was a white man. The villain in Falcon and the Winter Soldier wasn't the literal terrorist girl because women good, it was a white senator for not giving out more free stuff. Oh, by the way, Falcon, a senator is a senator. They're not the president or anything. They don't have that much power. Even in the Black Widow movie, a movie I forgot to go over, but I'll go over it now. You are led to believe that the villain is Taskmaster, but Taskmaster has boobs, so she can't be evil. Is it any of the other widows? Nope, it's this white guy who was really pulling all the strings. Now I guess you can also say that the villain in Thor Love and Thunder was a gray alien and not a white guy. But he was played by a white guy, so fuck you, I'm counting it. Now, I want to make it perfectly clear that I don't have a problem with a female or non-white person fighting a white male villain. I didn't have a problem with Black Panther fighting Claw, a white guy who was also playing second fiddle to a black villain. But when you shoehorn in a white guy in the last act to say, no, it wasn't the woman, then I do have a problem with this. But the third and biggest problem I have with Marvel Phase 4 is all these new stupid Mary Sue female characters. This is not only a problem with Marvel, but a lot of other Disney movies and shows as well. And before you say, oh, you're just hating that because you hate women. No, they do this to male characters as well. In my Disney Sues video, I went over how they made Black Panther Star-Lord the biggest Gary Stu of all time, and the first black Gary Stu. And calling me sexist is not an argument. It literally debunks none of my points. Whether I hate women or not is not relevant to the conversation. And yes, I do hate women because I am a robot. I hate all humans. I'm totally cool with Disney adding more female characters, even if they are really powerful. The Scarlet Witch isn't a Mary Sue to me because she's the most powerful character in all of Marvel. She's a Mary Sue because she enslaved an entire town against their will and is never called out for it. Hell, for no longer keeping them enslaved, she's praised for it. They don't have a hero's journey, they're just great out of the gate. Look at Goten and Trunks. So many fans were pissed off when they just got Super Saiyan out of nowhere. It's like Disney wants to add female characters, but they don't want to step on the progressive toes, so they make them as perfect as they possibly can. And honestly, I don't see Marvel getting any better. In fact, if anything, I think they're going to get worse. By trying to impress their non-fans, they're going to lose their fan base. I don't want to see Marvel movies become worse than Twilight movies, which I reviewed all of them in a video, which you should check out after you're done with this one. I have a lot more to say, but this video is already long enough. That's why throughout the entire month of September, I'm going to be talking about Marvel shit. Tune in next time when I go over the mistreatment of the Incredible Hulk.